Welcome to Concrete Block, the podcast where we dive into the latest news and current events from around the world. We have a lot to cover, so let's get started. We're coming to you live on a day when Bangladesh is holding a general election and the stakes are high. The country has been in a state of flux since a Gen Z-led uprising toppled the government of Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina in August 2024. Hasina, who was allied with India, has since taken refuge in New Delhi, and China has been making moves to deepen its influence in Bangladesh. The US is taking notice of China's expanding presence in South Asia and is planning to offer Bangladesh's next government alternative defense systems to counter Chinese hardware. According to the US ambassador to Dhaka, Washington is concerned about China's growing footprint in the region and wants to provide Bangladesh with options that align with its own interests. This development comes as Bangladesh is set to hold elections with several parties vying for power. The Bangladesh Nationalist Party, led by Tariq Rahman, is emerging as a frontrunner, while an 11-party coalition spearheaded by the Islamist Jamaat-e-Islami is also seeking to expand its influence in national politics. The election is being closely watched, not just because of its implications for Bangladesh's future, but also due to the country's strategic location in South Asia. The US, India, and China are all jostling for influence in the region, and the outcome of the election could have significant consequences for the balance of power. As we continue to follow this story, we'll be keeping an eye on the election results and what they might mean for Bangladesh's relationships with its neighbors and global powers. We'll also be exploring the implications of China's growing presence in South Asia and how it affects regional dynamics. We'll be right back with more of today's top news on Concrete Block. Welcome back to Concrete Block. We're diving into a complex and sensitive topic that's been making waves in international relations. The United States and Iran have been engaged in a high-stakes game of cat and mouse, with both sides exchanging threats and accusations. At the heart of this tension is the question of whether the US will use military force against Iran. To break it down, we need to understand the current state of affairs. The US has been imposing strict sanctions on Iran, which has led to a significant escalation of tensions between the two nations. Iran, feeling cornered and isolated, has been responding with aggressive rhetoric and actions, including threatening to regionalize the war if the US uses force. Now, there are those who argue that a military strike against Iran would be a catastrophic mistake, leading to devastating consequences for the region and the world at large. Others claim that it's necessary to prevent Iran from developing nuclear weapons and to protect American interests in the Middle East. It's essential to acknowledge that both sides have valid concerns and grievances. The US has legitimate worries about Iran's nuclear program and its support for extremist groups, while Iran feels that its sovereignty is being threatened and its economy is being strangled by sanctions. The scenario being discussed in Washington, which involves a decapitation-style strike targeting the supreme leader, senior military figures, and key infrastructure, is a highly risky and unpredictable move. It could lead to a severe escalation of violence, with Iran responding in kind and potentially drawing in other countries in the region. On the other hand, some argue that this type of strike could be a necessary evil, aimed at resetting the bargaining table and forcing Iran back into negotiations. The goal would be to demonstrate American resolve and capabilities while also avoiding a full-scale war. Ultimately, the decision to use military force against Iran is a complex one with far-reaching consequences. It's crucial for policymakers to carefully weigh the pros and cons, considering the potential risks and benefits, as well as the long-term implications for regional stability and global security. As we continue to monitor this situation, it's clear that the stakes are high and the margin for error is small. The world watches with bated breath, hoping that diplomacy will prevail and that a peaceful resolution can be found. Welcome back to Concrete Block. Today, we've been discussing some of the most pressing issues in politics and society. As we wrap up this episode, I want to shift our attention to a story that's been making headlines across the pond. The UK's House of Lords has been embroiled in controversy surrounding Lord Peter Mandelson's ties to disgraced financier Jeffrey Epstein. Now, it's worth noting that Mandelson has faced significant backlash for his associations with Epstein, and many have called for him to be stripped of his title. However, the process for removing a peer from the House of Lords is complex and rarely used. In fact, it requires an act of Parliament, which hasn't been done in over a century. This raises interesting questions about accountability and the role of the House of Lords in modern British politics. On one hand, the House of Lords plays a crucial role in reviewing and revising legislation, providing a check on the power of the elected government. On the other hand, the fact that members can only be removed through such a cumbersome process suggests that there may be a need for reform. It's also worth comparing this situation to the way the British royal family handled a similar scandal involving Prince Andrew. The prince was quickly stripped of his titles and responsibilities after his associations with Epstein became public. This contrast highlights the different standards that seem to apply to members of the royal family versus members of the House of Lords. As we consider these issues, it's essential to approach the topic with nuance and balance. While it's clear that Mandelson's actions have caused harm and outrage, it's also important to recognize the complexities of the situation and the need for a fair and transparent process. That's all for today's Concrete Block. Remember to like, share, and subscribe, and until next time, stay informed.